Awesome.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody. We've got all our teacher panelists. Before we do the teacher panel though, we are gonna just do this Minnesota Distinguished Educator Award presentation to Jim. And gosh, I sure wish we could do this in person because this is really actually a very prestigious, or just this is really an honor for him and for us to be able to present it to him. It's kind of a big deal, and I wish, Jim, that we could do more. You will be receiving a plaque in the mail. But let's just start by, I just want to tell everyone what this award is. So the GIS LIS Consortium, this professional group, has created this award to recognize active educators each year, both K through 12 and higher education. So either or both can be nominated and awarded each year. This year, Jim is the only recipient. And the people who are awarded have demonstrated leadership, creativity, and enthusiasm for the effective use of geography and GIS to inspire, engage, and prepare students for participation in the workforce and geospatial community. So there have just been a few years of awardees. Sarah Damon, who you all met earlier, is one of our first awardees a couple years ago. And we really, the bar is pretty high. So I'm just gonna read a couple of quick things, and then I think both Charlie and Donna are going to chime in here. But we wanted to recognize Jim with this award because he really has demonstrated a significant contribution through GIS in his curriculum when he was a teacher, but beyond, now that he's retired, he's really worked to help other teachers and integrate GIS in their curriculum, to geo-mentor more than 40 teachers. He started the mapping contest, or he championed the mapping contest to make it what it is. And it's been a great way for teachers to integrate spatial thinking and instruction. He really has demonstrated leadership by going above and beyond through this volunteer work, and he has touched many of you, including myself, with his work and beyond Minnesota. And he's been participating in this Educator Day since its first year, 6 years ago. And so I just really, I want to thank Jim for all his work and say you are really deserving of this. And thanks so much for all your contributions to GIS in Minnesota.
So Stacy, can I jump in?
Yes, please, Charlie.
Okay, and this is a real amazing opportunity for me to be able to say congratulations to the guy who, without knowing it, really changed the direction in my life. In 1986, Jim was presenting a workshop, or presenting at a summer institute, and Jim led a class using Apple IIe's, and it was looking at data of the countries of the world and asking simple questions about what's the relationship between this factor and that factor, and what are the countries that fit this characteristic and that characteristic. And it was mind-blowing for me, because he could say, okay, we're going to ask this question on this database, and we're going to have 7 countries that meet these characteristics. Now, what's common about these 7 countries? Oh, these are oil-producing countries. Oh, these are people that belong to this particular group or that group. It was amazing to see what could happen with data. And before, I had never gotten that excited about data. And all of a sudden, I saw what you could do with data. And it just changed everything that I was doing as a geography teacher. Instead of just knowing all of these things about places, you could now start looking at databases for patterns. If you knew how to ask a good question and you had the right data, you could come up with all kinds of information that was data for something else. So that then you could turn into making the maps and things like that. It was just, he changed everything for me in terms of where I was heading down my own path as a geographer and as a teacher of geography. And so I am where I am today because of the Minnesota Geography Alliance workshop led by Jim Hanson. And when then I got to say, okay, I really, wow, this stuff is so cool. I need to share this with more people. And Jim finally said, okay, I've heard enough about this. I'm going to come and see it. And now he's taken off with this, so that I need to, every now and then, I get to have a chance to meet with Jim on a Saturday morning, and we just pass ideas back and forth to each other. And it's a fabulous learning opportunity for me to think about, how does somebody who's really good at understanding how to transmit information about geography patterns to students and to other teachers, and then to kick around different ideas of how do we do this inside of ArcGIS Online. It's just mind-blowing having somebody to interact with on a regular basis like this. So I'm one of the luckiest guys in the world because I get to work with Jim.
I'm going to just quickly say something, and I'll be done quick. Thank you, Charlie, and thank you, Stacy. When we were talking about nominating Jim for this award, I can think of nobody better, like Charlie said, who motivates and inspires so many of us. Jim's pushed a lot of us to go past what we thought we could do. And what I appreciate the most is A, he is such an advocate for teachers, but even B, and more importantly, is he thinks students can do anything, and he empowers students to just take off with this. And to me, that is a true teacher and a true genius. And he's taken this. I just am constantly impressed when he says, "No, students can do this. We can have students do this. They can do this." And he never, he just always thinks they can reach for the stars. And I have been so inspired. And I think Jim's impact on the GIS community in Minnesota and across the country is very far reaching. And we are all grateful. I am definitely grateful. So thank you, Jim.
Oh, Stacy, you're muted, Stacy.
I'm muted again. Hi. I agree, Shauna and Charlie. Thank you for that. Yeah, Shauna, you touched about his optimism. And that first year when I met Jim, we were working on the first mapping contest, and we met in like October or something to put this together for a whole contest in the spring. And most of us on the committee were like, yeah, we'll just look at this for next year. And Jim said, no, we can do it. We can do it. We'll do it now. And we did, and we got a huge number of participants, and oh, it was good to see. A reminder. So anyway, thank you so much, Jim, for all your work and for helping to keep this activity going. Yeah. Balloons and hugs later.
Well, chiming in on what Charlie said, sitting next to me is my wife, Jan.
Hi.
Hi, Jan.
Who happened to go to college at Gustavus with David Lanegren's soon-to-be wife.
Right.
Back in the 1960s.
She was a roommate.
And that particular relationship brought me to the workshop that Charlie was talking about. So without Jan, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today, and that connection. And Charlie, who knows where, Charlie may still be in the same spot. But the one thing I'd like to say, this honor is kind of humbling here, because I end up doing something that I'm really enjoying and having fun with. My very first year teaching, about the middle of October, I remember calling my parents and so and by the way, teaching in Jan's hometown, her sister was the matchmaker that got us together. I let an 8th grade girl pick out my wife for me, and it worked out. That's 3 years ago?
3 years, yeah.
Yeah. So that worked out great. But I called my parents and I said, I can't believe they're paying me to do this. Like, I'm having so much fun. And that never left me. I have other friends who taught for 35 years and they had no interest in ever walking back in the door of a school or seeing a student or having anything to do with it. And I would have a hard time being taken away. And when this entered, Charlie gave that very nice compliment about the effect of the 1986 workshop. But when I went to T3G and once I started working with Charlie and ArcGIS Online, my head exploded too, because I thought, why did I retire in 2000 when I could have been working with this with students? I saw the benefits right away. And to spin off of what Shauna said, I ended up having the unusual experience of having 4 long call subbing jobs in the gifted classes in the middle school in Bloomington at about the same time. So I was able to bring it in when I was working with those kids. But what I vividly remember, spinning off of what Shauna said, when I was down to my last 2 weeks on one of those experiences, I thought, to heck with it. I don't care what the curriculum says. I'm bringing the kids in the computer lab and we're going to learn ArcGIS. And we did. And the first day I brought them to the page and they were, you know how kids are, they're exploring everywhere. And finally I walked over to this one kid, Johnny Bush. I still remember. I said, Johnny, what are you doing? He says, I'm making an app. And I went like, you're doing a what? He just jumped in and found the app maker and he was starting to build an app. I didn't even know what he was doing.